You can draw this in Procreate. You can draw and animate this cauldron with a love potion in Procreate. For this tutorial, we will only be using one brush and it's already in the app Procreate. And anyone can follow this You Can Draw This video tutorial because I have developed these especially for people who have no experience with Procreate or with drawing. I will show you each step in the process and you will be learning by doing, exploring lots of features of Procreate. And once you have followed this tutorial all the way till the end, you will have your own cauldron animation. And do be sure to share it on Instagram, for example, and tag me in the image or video and not just in the description. That way I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see it in the next You Can Draw This video. Are you ready to get started? First of all, our canvas. It's 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. And I have set my color profile to sRGB. And of course, I have created a color palette for you, which you can find through the link in the description. You can download it for free. First thing we'll do for this animation, illustration, drawing tutorial is add a color to our background. Let's click background color. And let's pick this first color in our color palette. It's a nice purple color. Like I said, we'll only be using one brush during this tutorial. Super easy, we'll only be using the monoline brush. And you can find it under calligraphy. And for our color, we will pick this first color in that second line, this dark purplish blue color. I have set the brush to 100% opacity. And for the size, I'll go for 30%. And we are going to draw an oval first. So make an oval shape. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to an automatic shape, a quick shape. And you can go to edit shape here at the top once you let go. And you can move it around. And you can use these handles to change your shape a bit. I don't want it to be too big. Let's go for something like this. We can always change the size later on. Let's drag in the color. You can just click this circle and then drag in the color into your circle. And you can actually, if you hold it, you can adjust the color drop threshold. If you go all the way to the right, everything will fill. If you go all the way to the left, then, well, nothing really happens. But let's just go all the way to the right just before it fills the entire canvas. That way you know that it will be filled all the way to the edge. You won't have a light line around your shape. For the next step, we are going to duplicate this layer. You can go to the layer menu and then drag to the left and click duplicate. For this shape, I want to fill it with another color. We'll pick the second color here and you can just drag it on top of your shape. Now we'll go to the layer menu again and click this new layer and then go for clipping mask. Next we'll go to the arrow, the move tool, and then you can drag the circle to the right and up a little bit. So you get a slight dark edge around your oval. Then click the move tool again to get out of there. Then we'll duplicate this layer again by swiping to the left, clicking duplicate, and we'll fill this one with that dark color again. That's that first color in the second line. Drag it in, and then go to the move tool again, the arrow. Now let's drag it up and to the right a little bit again. And we can actually also use distort. That's here at the bottom in the menu. And we can pull up this edge a little bit. And we can drag that one up a little bit as well. And we'll move this one like this. And then you can click the arrow again to get out of there. And then, surprise, surprise, let's duplicate it again. We'll swipe to the left, click duplicate, and we'll fill this with that second color again. drag it onto the shape, and then go to the move tool again. And we'll move this one a little bit more. So we have a nice dark edge there. And again, let's use distort. I'll drag these handles because I want a dark edge over here as well. Until you have something like this, then click the arrow to get out of there. Next, let's add the top of the cauldron. We'll make a new layer on top by going to the layer menu and then clicking the plus. And for the color, let's pick that dark color, that first color in that second line. And now we will create an oval again. Draw an oval, hold your pen in place, and then you can go to Edit Shape to edit your shape. And we want it to align with that oval that we just created. So I'll make sure that these blue little circles are on top of that edge of our circle, of our cauldron base. Let's put it down just a little bit more. Until you have something like this, and it doesn't matter that this part is sticking out a little bit, that's fine. And now we can drop in the color by dragging in that circle. Let's duplicate this layer by by sliding to the left, clicking duplicate, and let's go to the move tool and set it to uniform. Now let's drag it up and make this one a little bit bigger. If you want to make sure that your cauldron or the top of your cauldron is in the exact center of your canvas, you can go to snapping here at the bottom and turn on snapping. Now if you drag, you can see that yellow or orangey line, and you'll know that it's exactly centered. We'll have to do that with the other elements as well though, so we are sure that those are in the center as well. Let's click the arrow. And let's go back to that other layer 5, then to the move tool, and place that in the center as well. And we can do the same thing for these layers. Let's just select them all by swiping to the right, then going to the arrow, and then moving it to the center. Now we are sure that everything is centered. Let's go back to that layer 5. I feel like it's a little bit big, so let's go to the arrow again and make it a little bit smaller, and then place it in the center again. I think we are in the right spot now. Then just click the arrow to get out of there. Let's fill this top part with another color. Let's pick this one over here. That's the 6th color in the color palette, and let's just drag it on top to fill that shape. Now we'll want to create this edge here on the sides on that other layer 5, that bottom layer. Now to make sure that the left side and the right side will look the same, we can use the symmetry tool. We'll go to the wrench, then go to canvas, turn on drawing guide, and then go to edit drawing guide and turn on symmetry right here. And we can actually turn down the opacity of that line because we don't really need to see it. Then click done. And when you go to your layers, you'll see that this layer 5 is assisted now. That means that for this layer, symmetry is turned on. Now we'll have to go to our colors and pick that color that we used again. That's this first one. And then let's make a little line from the bottom part to the top part. And if you hold your pen in place, it'll snap to a quick shape. And that way you'll have a straight line. Now let's go back to the layer menu and create a new layer on top of this top layer 5. Let's click the plus, and for our color, let's pick this dark color again. And we are going to create an oval on top. We're making a lot of ovals today. hold your pen in place, and use edit shape to create that opening for our cauldron. Create something like this. You can drag in the color, and if you want to make sure that it's exactly centered, you can go to the arrow and you still have snapping turned on, and you can just move it and make sure that it's nicely centered. And then click the arrow again. Now I want to create a nice light edge around our top part of the cauldron. Let's go to layer 5 and we'll create a new layer on top by clicking the plus, and we will use clipping mask on this layer. We'll click the layer and use clipping mask. So whatever we paint on here on layer 8 will only show up on the shape on layer 5. For our color, we will pick this light purple. And let's create an oval again. You won't be able to really see it, but that's okay. Just hold your pen in place and then use edit shape. And you can move it around a bit and create this nice edge at the bottom of that edge. You know what I mean, right? Create a nice thin edge until you have something like this. Now let's add some love potion fluid to our cauldron. Let's go to the layer menu again and go to layer 7 and click the plus again for a new layer. And again, we will be using layer clipping mask here. So click the layer and turn on clipping mask. For our color, we will pick this nice pink for our potion. And again, you can guess it, we are creating an oval. Hold your pen in place, go to edit shape, and then move these handles and create something like this. Then you can just drag in the color to fill your pot. And let's also add some interest to our fluid here, to our potion, by using this second pink color here. And let's just add some little ovals. I should call this video how to draw an oval, I guess. It's all about ovals. And just add something like this. The top part is finished now. Now I would like to add some more interest, some more variation to our pot. Let's go to the layer menu and let's go to this layer right here. That's that top light layer. And let's create a new layer on top by clicking the plus. And again, we will use layer clipping mask. So click the layer and click clipping mask. And for our color, we will pick this color right over here, that third color. And now I want the shape that I'm about to create, I want it to show up on this light area of the cauldron only. So what I'll do is I'll go to that layer, click it, and then use select. Now that area is selected, and when you have an active selection, you can only paint or erase or smudge inside of that selection. So let's go back to layer 10. And now we are going to create a wobbly line like an S shape. Make sure you close the shape and then drag in the color to fill it. But you might need to hold your pen in place and drag to the left to adjust your fill threshold. And now we can turn off the selection by clicking the S-shaped ribbon. Let's add a little bit more to this layer. Let's create another layer by clicking the plus again, setting it to clipping mask. And now let's pick this lighter color over here, that fourth color in the color palette. And let's add some ovals here to the side of the pot. And drag in the color to fill these shapes as well. Now I just want a little shadow here, just underneath that edge. And we'll use this color for that. And let's create an oval shape again. Hold your pen in place. Use edit shaper at the top. And let's just create a little bit of an edge there. A tiny shadow. And just drop in the color to fill it. Next, let's add, I'm not sure what they're called, like the feet of the cauldron. We need two little like paws. Let's put those on a layer underneath the rest of the layer. So first let's click the plus and then pick up that layer and drag it all the way to the bottom. To make sure that both of these legs, paws, feet, not sure what to call them, are, well, like the same. We want it to be symmetrical. We can click this layer and turn on Drawing Assist. Now for this layer, symmetry will be turned on again. Then let's pick that dark color, that first color, and let's just draw a little feet. Something like this, and drag in the color. Now we'll go to the layer menu and turn off Drawing Assist again. You can just click the layer and then click Drawing Assist. Now we want to add a tiny highlight to these feet. We'll click the layer and turn on Alpha Lock. Now we will only be able to paint on these two little feet. We won't be able to paint outside of that shape. Let's pick the second color and add a little bit of a highlight. Start with this one. Add some light there and on this side. Next, I'd like to add a skull to our scene. We are going to do that on top of all the other layers, so you can go to layer 9 here, click the plus for a new layer, and then let's pick this light color over here. That's the fourth color in the top row. And we'll start off with, well, a circular oval-like shape like this. Drag in the color to fill it. And now let's use the liquify tool to change the shape a little bit. We'll go to the magic wand and then to liquify. And be sure to set it to push. Distortion and momentum are off. Pressure is at 68%. And for the size, let's check. Well, that's okay. That's at 44%. And we can just drag a little bit and change the shape to make it look a bit more irregular. Like that. And then we'll go to the brush again. Just click the brush and let's add some teeth. You might want to make the brush a little bit smaller though. Let's go to 15%. And let's add some simple teeth. And you can either color them in by hand or you can drag in the color to fill those teeth. Next, let's add some eye sockets. Let's do that on a new layer by clicking the plus in the layer menu and then picking this dark color, this last color in the top row. Add one eye socket over here and one here and a nose. You don't have to make these shapes perfectly rounded. And in case you feel like they're in the wrong spot, if you want to move them, then you can go to the S-shaped ribbon, that's the selection tool, and set it to freehand. And for instance, you can pick up this left eye socket, select it and then click that little circle, and then go to the move tool, that's the arrow, and then you can actually move it around. Let's turn off snapping. You can move it around, make it smaller, rotate it. You have full control over it. And then you can click the arrow again to get out of there. And you can do the same thing for that other eye. Just select it, click that little circle, then go to the arrow. And you can make it smaller, move it around, rotate it, and be in full control. Then just click the arrow again. Now let's go to the layer menu again and click layer 14 and set it to alpha lock. Now again, we can only paint on this shape. Let's go to the colors and pick this gray color over here. That's the 5th color in the top row. And let's add a little line in the lower corner here. For each socket, just follow that shape and do the same for the nose here. Then we'll do the same for the skull. We'll go to layer 13, click that layer and set it to alpha lock. And let's add a little gray edge here. And alpha lock works the same as layer clipping mask. It's just that with layer clipping mask you're using an extra layer. You have more control, you can delete it later, you can move it around, and with alpha lock it's more of a destructive way of working. We can't erase this part, we can just paint over it again. And we can't move this gray, it's really stuck on that layer. But in that way, alpha lock does save you layer space. If you don't have the option to use many layers, then alpha lock could be the way to go for you. Next, I would like to add a drop shadow to the bottom of our illustration. Let's create a new layer by clicking the plus and let's drag that layer all the way to the bottom. And for our color, we will pick the 2nd color in the top row. And then let's create some ovals again. Let's create an oval here for our cauldron. Hold your pen in place. And then you can use edit shape again to edit the shape of your shadow. Use these handles to drag it around, and then you can go to the brush to make another oval for our skull. Hold your pen in place, use edit shape, and just create a little oval like this. And now you can drag in the color to fill the shape. Next, I just want to add some interest to our background. It's pretty empty right now. I just want to add some abstract shapes to make it look nicer. Let's click the plus for a new layer. Let's put it at the bottom. And for the color, let's pick this 3rd color in the top row. And I want to make the brush nice and big. Let's just go for 100% so we can make smooth lines here and smooth big shapes. I'll start with a rectangular shape here, trying to make a smooth shape, and then I'll fill it by dragging in the color. I'll make another shape over here, drag in the color to fill it, and let's make another one over here. And it gives kind of the sense of an old brick wall, but very abstract. The next step is to start animating. Now to get started animating, you'll have to go to the wrench, then to canvas, and then to animation assist. And then here at the bottom, you will see a bar popping up. When you're making an animation, each layer in your layer menu will be a frame in your animation. So our animation looks a little bit weird now. We have that background layer, we have the shadow, we have the feet of our cauldron, the cauldron. It's a big mess now. So we either need to group all of our layers or we need to merge them into one, because Procreate also sees a layer group as a frame. Now what you'll do really depends on your device and how many layers you can make in Procreate. If you are a bit limited, I would suggest duplicating your entire canvas so that you have a backup, and then on your duplicate canvas you can merge all of the layers. So we'll go to the layer menu and you can either select all of these layers that we have by swiping to the right, selecting them all, and then clicking group. Now we'll have one group, and you can see here in that bar that it is one frame right now. You can either leave it like this, or if you really need space, if you need more space for layers, then you can merge all of these layers, which usually is quite a challenge in Procreate to merge everything. You need big hands, but let's just merge all of these And now we have everything on one layer. And next we'll start animating that vapor that is coming out of the cauldron. And that will be the only moving part in our animation. Everything else, this entire background, will stay the same throughout the animation. So we'll click this layer here, this frame, and we can set it to background. Now this frame will be visible throughout the animation. And now to add a frame, to start animating, you can either click Add Frame here, or you can just go to the layer menu and click the plus for a new frame. And now we'll start making that vapor. We'll use this first color here, that pink color in the lowest row. Let's make our brush smaller again first. Let's go to 30%. Now let's make a small bubble of vapor. Close your shape, drag in the color, and we will lower the opacity of this vapor. We'll go to the layer menu, click that N, and then move the slider to around 75%. Next we can make a new layer, which will be a new frame. And you can see that that previous layer is turning more transparent. It is an onion skin layer. You can go to settings and you can actually set the onion skin opacity so you can make it even more transparent or more opaque, whatever you like. I'll go for 70%. And now we can use this previous layer as a guide to start working on our next frame. And in this frame, we'll make that vapor go up a little bit more. Close that shape. Fill the shape. And then go to the layer menu again, click that N, and set it to 75%. And then we'll make a new layer again. And you can see that you can see the previous layer and the one before that. Now, if you only want to see the previous layer, you can turn down the amount of onion skin frames here. If you go to 1, you will only see the frame before the frame you're working on. And I'll keep it at that. I'll click the brush to just get out of there, and now let's make our vapor even bigger. Start here at the bottom, make it wiggle up. Close that shape here at the bottom, fill it by dragging in the color, and then again click that N and set it to 75%. And then click the plus for a new layer, or actually a new frame. Now we'll start making the bottom part of the vapor a little bit thinner. Like that. And then again fill it by dragging in the color and lower the opacity of the layer by clicking the N and sliding it to 75%. Then click the plus and we'll go to our next frame. Here we'll make that bottom part even thinner. And that upper part will be a bit bigger. Drag in the color. I want this to be a little bit more rounded. And then again, turn down the opacity. Set the slider to 75% and click the plus for a new layer for our next frame. We'll make our vapor slightly different here. Make it a little bit bigger. Give it a little wobble here. And close the shape. Drag in the color. And lower the opacity to 75%. And click the plus for the next frame. In this frame, we'll start to make our vapor look more like a cloudy shape. Give it some of these wobbles. Like that. And then drag in the color again. Click the N to lower the opacity again to 75%. We'll do that each time. And then click the plus for the next frame. Next, this cloud will start to let go of that bottom part. This will become little ovals. And the top part will start to look more like a cloud. Drag in the color to fill it, and again lower the opacity to 75% and click the plus for the next frame. On this layer there will be even less vapor here near the pot, near the cauldron. And we'll follow the shape just a little bit. Try to stay reasonably close to it. And let's add some extra little small oval or bean shapes as more of that vapor is coming out. Let's lower the opacity again and click the plus for a new frame. In this frame, our smoke, our little cloud will be a little bit higher than it was. It's lifting up. Starting to become a little bit wobbly. Well, it was already wobbly, but even more wobbly than it was. And we have these little bean shapes around it. We can fill them in by hand. And there won't be any vapor near that surface in the cauldron anymore. And there will also be a tiny little opening in the center, just a little one. Now drag in the color to fill the rest and lower the opacity to 75% again. Let's go to the next layer. Again, follow that shape that we already have a little bit. Just change it slightly so that it looks as if it's moving. And this will move upwards a little bit. And let's add some here as well. You can either fill them in by hand or you can just drag in the color. This one will go outwards as well. And let's add some of that vapor here. And then that little shape, it'll become bigger. And it'll really turn into a heart shape. Let's drag in the color. Click the N in the layer menu and slide to 75% again. And we'll click the plus for a new layer. Now we'll start making our smoke or our vapor a little bit smaller. It'll shrink a little bit. And this one will go outwards. And they'll become a little bit smaller. And that heart shape will become even bigger. And now let's drag in the color to fill all of these shapes. Like I said, you can also just color them in by hand. Whatever you find most convenient. And then lower the opacity again to 75% and then click the plus. And click the plus for the new layer. Let's go even smaller now. Our little smoke, our vapor will really become smaller and smaller. and that heart will become more and more visible. We have a small one over here. This one will be smaller as well. And that heart will be pretty big. And then drag in the color again and lower the opacity to 75%. Then click the plus for our next frame. And here that vapor will really become quite a bit smaller and a bit more shapeless. As that heart, that'll also become less like a heart shape. And these will become smaller as they move out. You can add a new one here as that vapor is like, well, evaporating. And then drag in the color to fill it again, and let's lower the opacity to 75% again and make a new layer. And on this layer, that vapor, it will really fall apart. It won't be a closed shape again. It's all falling apart. And we won't see a heart shape anymore. Making some random wobbly shapes here. Try to give it clean outlines. And fill these 4 shapes by dragging in the color again. And let's lower the opacity to 75% and click the plus for another layer. These little clouds, these little vapor clouds will become smaller and smaller. They are wobbly, bean-like, almost bean-like shapes. And here you can make some small bean-like shapes in the center as well. And fill these 4 again. Then lower the opacity again to 75% and click the plus for another layer. And we'll go even smaller here. And this one, it's breaking apart. It has turned in 2 of these bean shapes. This one has fallen apart as well. And this one, not much left of it anymore. Then let's fill these bigger shapes. You might want to fill those smaller ones by hand. And then lower the opacity again and create a new layer. Now, if by any chance Procreate starts telling you that you can't make any more layers, what you can do is make your canvas a bit smaller. That way your device will be able to handle more layers. You can do that by going to the wrench, then to canvas, and then to crop and resize. You can go to settings and click that little, well, thingy here, and then make your canvas a bit smaller. That way, like I said, you can make more layers and you can continue following this tutorial. Alright, let's continue. Let's make these even smaller on this layer. We'll stay close to that previous shape. Let me just fill these in by hand. They are becoming so small that filling with the color drop tool is just not that convenient anymore. Make this one a bit smaller. Make a small version of this one. A little bean shape here. And one over here. Let's turn down the opacity to 75%. And then click the plus for another layer. Here the vapor is really almost gone. Just make a couple of oval-like shapes in a few spots. And then let's turn down the opacity by clicking the N and moving it to 75%. This was our final vapor layer, but to make sure that there's a little pause after the vapor has come out, we'll make a couple of blank layers as well. Let's create 3 so that at the end of our animation we'll have a little pause. Now let's go and check our animation. You can easily check it by clicking play here at the bottom in the little menu. And there you can see our vapor rising up from our cauldron. You can change the settings by going to settings, and you can actually make your animation go slower, or you can make it go super fast. Let's go for 12 frames per second. And here you see some other settings. You see loop. That way your animation will keep looping. It'll start over and over infinitely. You can also go for ping pong, which is a bit weird in this case, because it will go from the beginning to the end and then from the end to the beginning again. And if you go for one shot, you'll just have one shot. Your animation will play only once. But for now, let me just keep looping it. And if you want to export your animation, of course you can go to the wrench, then to share, and share it as an animated MP4 for instance. And that's it. There's your Love Potion Cauldron animation. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. If you have and you want more, then be sure to check out the playlist with all the other You Can Draw This video tutorials. And if you want more even after that, then of course you can check out my Patreon page where I share a lot more video tutorials ranging from beginner level to more advanced levels. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.